What's going on? Jeff here with Water Jug Fitness, and thank you for tuning in to my cutting meal prep part 2. So part 2 is going to cover prep and back, so cooking and packaging all of the food that you got from video 1. If you haven't seen video 1 yet, it's going to cover all the groceries. There's a link in the description, so check out that video. There's also a link to video number 3, which is like a full day of eating. So it's going to cover when to eat the meals and the breakdown of all the protein, the carbs, and fats. That link is in the description as well. These 3-part meal prep videos that I create are very, very simple and in-depth. So, the most basic prepper or someone who hasn't prepped even before, if you watched video 1, 2, and 3, you'd have it. And this could also help people who have been prepping for a while. Maybe it'll give them new ideas. That's what these 3-part meal preps do, is they're just very, very in-depth. The good thing I find about my meal plans, over some of the other ones that I watch, is that I've tried all of them. I've used all of them. I've used this one to get cut down, and I'll show you some pictures here in a few. But I've used all of my meal preps. I've tried them. I know that they work for me. You might have to modify them slightly, but this is a good template. Anyways, also in the description, you're gonna find a link to a full printable PDF, which you can acquire if you would like a hard copy. I prefer hard copies of things so I can make my own notes. I can add, I can make adjustments as I would like. So it's gonna cover the groceries, the cooking utensils, the cooking instructions, how to package the meals, when to eat the meals, the breakdown of all the calories, so the protein, the carbs, the fats. It's also going to have a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, their own little sheets so that you can move meals around, you can make notes. I wanted to make that available to you. So again, there's a link in the description. You can check that out and again, get it if you would like. But I know this video is long enough. Hopefully it will not put you to sleep. I try to do my best to, make these videos somewhat entertaining. I'm going to stop talking now, and I hope you guys enjoy. Okay, here's a quick shot of all the groceries purchased for this prep. If you want a full recap, make sure to check out video number 1. There is a link in the description. And then here are all the cooking utensils. I have 10 16-ounce meal prep containers. I have 1 medium Snapware container. I have 5 3-compartment meal prep containers. I have some Flavor God seasoning, some oven mitts, some tin foil, a strainer, a large mixing bowl, a cutting board, a knife set, a spatula, a 3-slotted spoon, a measuring cup set, a large saute pan, 2 large cookie pans, a rice cooker, a food scale, and a large cooking pot. So I am going to start off by rinsing my chicken. I get a lot of crap for doing this, but guys, it's slimy, it's gooey. The packaging, I don't know how long it's been sitting in there. I would rather take the risk and rinse off some of that nasty stuff that's on it and then wipe down my entire kitchen than not do it. So it's up to you. But then I'm going to trim off any of the excess fat on the chicken. Do the best you can. You might cut off a little bit of meat while trying to cut off the fat, but like I said, just do the best you can at limiting that. Some pieces will be fattier than other pieces. I've heard of people leaving the skin and the fat on the chicken. That is not something that I do, nor is it something that I recommend, especially when you're trying to cut, because you don't want all of that excess fat from the skin of the chicken. So my recommendation is to trim it off. Then head over to the stove and turn a burner to a medium-high heat and add a few splashes of extra virgin olive oil to your saucepan. After it's heated up for a few minutes, you want to add the chicken breasts. If you want to get a sear on it, you would leave a little more space in between, but since that's not the objective, I just want to make sure that they all get in the saute pan. Now I'm going to add some seasoning. I'm just going to go with salt and pepper. Keep in mind, you guys can add whatever seasonings you would like here. Feel free to do so, but if you add any kind of marinades, just be cautious of the amount of sugar and carbs in them. But then you're going to want to rotate them after a few minutes, and then place a lid on them, let them cook for an additional about 10 to 12 minutes, and then they will be done. There should be no pink on the inside when you cut into one. Then I'm gonna shut the burner off and move the chicken from the saute pan into a large mixing bowl, because we're making some shredded chicken. So I'm gonna move it into this bowl, and then here in a few seconds, I'm gonna cover this large mixing bowl in tin foil and let it sit for about 20 to 25 minutes, letting it cool just a little bit before I start to shred it up. It's a simple way to make shredded chicken. While I'm waiting on the chicken to finish, I'm gonna move to the beef. So on the stove, I'm gonna turn the burner to a medium-high heat, and in my saute pan, yes, I washed it, I'm going to add a few splashes of extra virgin olive oil, and then I'm going to add the lean ground beef, the 96.4 ground beef. Then I'm gonna add some seasoning. Again, I'm gonna go with salt and some pepper. Here is again where you guys can pick whatever seasonings you would like. And then I'm also gonna add some Flavor God Everything Spicy because I want this to be a little bit spicy. If you guys haven't tried Flavor God, I highly recommend it. It's one of my favorites. And then with a spatula, I'm gonna mix this all up, just breaking it apart to ensure that it can cook thoroughly. Then place a lid on it and let it cook for about 5 to 6 minutes. And then after 5 to 6 minutes, take the lid off, and with the spatula, again, mix it around, breaking it apart to ensure it cooks thoroughly. You want to make sure that it's all cooking the same. Then again, you're going to want to place a lid on it. This time, let it cook for about 10 minutes. Shut the burner off, let it cool for just a little bit, maybe about 5 minutes. Then in a strainer, I'm going to drain the grease from the beef. I have a bowl in the bottom of the strainer to catch the grease because the grease is not good for the sink. I'm not a grease doctor or a sink doctor, but it cannot be good to dump grease down the drain. Then I'm gonna move the strained beef into a different bowl or container, and that is it for the beef. And now I'm gonna head back over to the chicken and remove the tinfoil and start to shred it up. If it's still a little bit too warm, you might wanna put it in the fridge for just a few minutes. If it's not that warm, then again, like I said, you can start to shred it up. I'm just using my hands. You could use a fork probably if you want to. You could use other utensils, but I find that the hands are the best utensil to use. And you can see that I'm shredding it up into fairly small pieces, so just keep that in mind. Then I'm gonna head to the stove, turn the burner to a medium-high heat, and in my saute pan, add some extra virgin olive oil and add the shredded chicken. And then I'm gonna take my Frank's Red Hot and add it generously. Again, here's where you can add whatever type of marinade you would like, but for me, I like Frank's, I like the taste, it's low in calories, so that's my choice for these wraps that I'm making, these shredded chicken wraps. And then I'm gonna mix it around with some tongs, making sure that each piece gets covered. No piece left behind, guys. Make sure it all gets covered. And then I'm gonna spread it out evenly, let it cook for about 5 minutes just to get a little sear on it. Shut the burner off and move the chicken into the large bowl that I had it shredded in, or you can put it in a different container, it's up to you. But then that is it for the shredded chicken. Now we're gonna move on to some veggies. So in a strainer, I'm gonna put the broccoli in the strainer and rinse off any dirt, that was on the broccoli. You rinse vegetables, that's what you do. Then I'm gonna head over to the cutting board and cut the broccoli into smaller pieces. I'm not gonna eat the very end of the stem or the stalk, whatever you wanna call that, but I will eat the rest of it. Shout out to my subs who commented in several of my videos saying you should try to eat that piece because that piece is delicious. So shout out to you guys. I do read your comments. I love to see your guys' feedback. So if you ever think that I don't take your guys' feedback into consideration, I do. And I use it. And it's in this video. So thank you again. But then, yeah, it's just more cutting of the broccoli into smaller pieces. Just make sure you cut it into, bite-sized pieces, I guess you could say. Then in one of your cookie sheets, you want to cover it with tinfoil. Pat it down so that you make sure it's, flat and it covers all the corners. And then I'm just going to take all of my broccoli and add it to the cookie sheet and spread it out again so it can cook evenly. Then I'm going to take my extra virgin olive oil and drizzle it over the broccoli. Then I will add some seasoning. I'm going to add salt and pepper. I find that salt and pepper goes really good with broccoli in the oven. And then I'm going to add some Flavor God Garlic Lovers seasoning to the broccoli as well. I got a combo pack of the Flavor God seasonings and I really like them, so I recommend them. And then I'm just going to mix it all around, just making sure everything is covered the same. I'm going to move the broccoli to the side and start on the peppers. So in my strainer, I'm going to add the peppers to the strainer, and then I'm going to rinse off the peppers, any dirt, bacteria, all that stuff. And then I'm going to head over to the cutting board and cut the top off of the pepper. And then inside, you're going to find a core. You're going to want to also cut that core out and try to pull as many of the seeds out as you can, but don't worry about getting all of them out because we will go back to the sink, back to the strainer, and rinse them out to make sure you get them all. So again, just do your best initially, but just know that you're gonna rinse them out anyways. Once you're done, you're gonna wanna head back to the sink, and as I stated, you're gonna wanna rinse out any of the seeds that might be left over. So I guess technically you didn't need to wash them initially or rinse them initially, but you know, what does it hurt? Then I'm gonna preheat the oven to 400 degrees and head back to the cutting board while the oven is preheating and cut the peppers into smaller slices or pieces. And I don't know if I've said this yet, guys, but I am not a chef. So if you haven't figured that out, my ways might not be always the proper way or the correct way, you would say, I guess, but it gets the job done. You just want to cut the peppers into smaller pieces. However you get there is fine with me. Now you'll want to get your other large cookie sheet, and just as you did with the broccoli, you want to cover it with tinfoil, pat it down, you know, make sure it's all on the sides. Then I'm going to take the peppers and move them to the cookie sheet, spread them out evenly, again, just as the broccoli. I'm going to drizzle the peppers with some extra virgin olive oil and then add some seasonings. So again, I'm going with salt and pepper. Your choice. If there's a different seasoning, maybe you like garlic, maybe you like something else, I don't know, you can add it here. Then I'm gonna mix it all around and cover it evenly. It's repetitive, but I bet you guys won't forget it. Then I'm gonna place the broccoli and the peppers in the oven for 15 to 20 minutes. Moving on to the eggs, I'm gonna take the 24 eggs and place them in a large cooking pot, preferably larger than this cooking pot. I should have used a bigger one. They didn't come out the best, but you live and you learn. I'm going to add water until they are fully submerged, as you can see in this demonstration. Then I'm gonna head to the stove and turn the burner to a high heat. And as I'm waiting for the eggs to come to a boil, I'm gonna pull the broccoli and the peppers because they will be done. And then the eggs will start to boil, and I'm gonna shut the burner off, place a lid on them, and let them cook for 15 to 20 minutes. Moving on to the rice. In my rice cooker, I'm going to place 2 cups in the rice cooker. I did not rinse the rice. I'm sure I'm gonna get crap for that as well. Some bags say you don't have to rinse it, some say you do. I've never rinsed it, I've never had any issues, but you can rinse it if you would like. Then I'm going to add 4 cups of water. If it's 2 cups dry rice, it's 4 cups water. And these rice cookers are pretty handy if you eat a lot of rice. I'm just gonna place it back in there, turn it on, set it to brown rice, put the lid on it, and let it go for about 40 minutes or until it's done. And then I'm gonna move back to the eggs. I'm gonna drain out the water, and then I'm gonna go ahead and add cool water. Where I think I messed up is the cool water. It wasn't cold enough. I should have added ice cubes. I've done ice cubes in the past. I would add the ice cubes, let it sit for like 20 minutes, and then they're much easier to peel. Here, I'm having a much more difficult time peeling them. You know, again, you live and you learn. But then I'm actually using a cup, and I'm filling it with a little bit of water, and I'm shaking it. I don't know if you've ever seen this way of peeling an egg. It's supposed to be easier. Again, I think if I would have added ice cubes and let it sit, it probably would have been, but I didn't do it this time. So next time I will be sure to add the ice cubes, and I recommend that you guys add the ice cubes and let it sit for, 15, 20 minutes. Really let them cool before you try to peel them. So now that all the eggs are peeled, I'm gonna cut 19 of them in half and remove the yolks and place them into my little Snapware container, because each morning I'm gonna have 3 egg whites and 1 egg. So then that leaves 5 eggs where I just place it in the container. So again, hopefully that's not too confusing. 19 of the eggs, you cut in half, remove the yolk. The other 5, you just place in the Snapware. Now it's time to package the meals up. Hopefully most of the cooking instructions made sense to you guys. As you do these types of prep more, they do get easier over time. Then I'm setting out my 3 compartment meal prep containers, and I'm gonna get a ½ cup scoop of rice and place it into each container, as you can see here. And then I'm gonna fast forward it so that you don't have to watch all of it. in normal speed. And then I'm gonna switch up the camera angle on you guys and move on to the beef. I know meal prepping might not be the most exciting, so hopefully you're still with me and you haven't fell asleep yet. But like I said, onto the beef. So I'm gonna take my measuring cup, I have a half cup, and I'm gonna measure out 7 to 8 ounces of beef and place it over the rice. If you don't have these 3 compartment meal prep containers, don't worry. Just, you could have a single compartment and you just place the rice down, you place the beef, and then you place the broccoli, or whatever you have. It can work. You don't have to have the 3 compartment meal prep containers. Yes, they're nice. Yes, they help. And they're not that expensive. You can get them, but if you don't have them, it's not the end of the world. Onto the broccoli. I'm gonna measure a cup to a cup and a half of broccoli for each meal. Also, guys, I'm not in contest prep. This is just to kind of help people cut, or it helps me cut specifically. So it might not be 100%, exact, but it's going to be very, very close when it comes to the macros. And then here is a shot of all the meals. So again, it's a half cup of the brown rice, 7 to 8 ounces of the lean ground beef, and a cup to a cup and a half of broccoli. Then I'm gonna get out my slightly smaller containers and move on to the shredded chicken and the peppers. These smaller containers I got from Flavor God. It was like a variety pack. So the only reason I'm shouting them out is because I use their products and I love their products. So shout out to Flavor God. But with the shredded chicken, I just have my little measuring cup there. I'm gonna measure out 8 ounces of chicken, or the shredded chicken. And then I'm just gonna place it into my container and repeat this step for the following 4 containers. And as I'm speeding through this, I will note that all of these meals get stored in the fridge. So I don't freeze any of my meals. I've heard of people doing it. I just particularly don't like the way that meals taste when they're thawed out. So I find that these meals keep fine for 5 to 6 days. So there you go. I put all mine in the fridge. Then I will move on to the peppers. I'm gonna take my measuring cup and scoop out about a cup to a cup and a half of peppers. You really can't overdo it when it comes to vegetables and cutting. Actually, you probably can. So let's just say it would be really hard to overdo it. Then for a quick recap, I have 8 ounces of the shredded chicken and a cup to a cup and a half of the peppers. And these will actually be made into wraps, but you'll have to watch video 3 to see how I eat the meals. And we're not quite done yet. The last little meal that I have to package is a side salad. So I'm gonna take 2 of the hearts of romaine lettuce stalks, or whatever you wanna call them, and I'm gonna rinse them off. And once they're rinsed off, I'm just gonna place them back on my cutting board. And then I'm gonna grab the fresh spinach, and I'm also going to rinse some of that. So I'm gonna take a couple handfuls of the spinach and throw it in the strainer, rinse it off, and then just put it into a large container or large mixing bowl for the time being, and I'll come back to it. So I'm gonna go to the cutting board with my lettuce and just proceed to cut it into smaller pieces, but I stop about 1 inch to 2 inches away from the white portion, or the end. And then I'm gonna mix this in with my spinach. And the reason I did both lettuce and spinach is because the greener the salad, or the leaf, usually the more nutrients it has. So, but I like the crunch of the actual lettuce, so that's why I did both of them. Now onto the grape tomatoes. I'm just gonna place them in the strainer, both packages, and rinse them off. And then I'm going to move them into another mixing bowl, a smaller mixing bowl. And then from there, I'm going to set out 5 more of those smaller meal prep containers. And then I'm going to add a few handfuls of the lettuce spinach mix. Now, as you can see, I'm not exactly measuring it out, but if you eyeballed it, it would be about 3 to 4 cups of the lettuce and spinach. And when it comes down to it, that's not where a lot of the calories are from. If you overdo it anywhere, I would like to see you overdo it with the lettuce or the salads. And then I'm gonna grab about a handful of the grape tomatoes, 10 to 12 of them, and put them in each meal. Again, here you're not really gonna go too far overboard, so it's fine. And here you can see all of the salads. I also made way too much, but it's fine. Again, you can have extra salads throughout the week. All right, guys, and that is it for this prep. You can see all of the meals here. And again, as I stated earlier, I just store all of these meals in the fridge. I don't, freeze any of them. And also, I'm gonna get questions about, this doesn't add up to, 2,500 calories or whatever you said it was. That is true. These meals do not. it's the full day of eating. There are many other meals, and breakfast and shakes that come into play. So make sure to watch video number 3, the full day of eating, which breaks down all the meals, all the calories, and when I eat them.